certainly true that some cyclists go through red lights because they're in a hurry and they've got places to go to and they don't really care about the red lights. It's also true that sometimes it's not safe to wait for a red light. There's one junction in the city that I will confess to going through the red on every time, because if I wait, I find myself in the middle of two squeezing lorries and it doesn't end well for me. So clearly there is some work to be done in cities to make them more bike friendly, because of course all the driving forces, economic as much as anything else, are pushing people into getting on two wheels rather than getting into public transport or cars.
Can the police keep up with bad cycling? The Times has found that the number of recorded cycling offences in London has dropped by 2/3 over the past 3 years. But it seems very unlikely that it's because cyclists are all behaving better. So what's going on? The London editor of the Times, Andy Silvester, is with us in the studio. Morning, Andy.
Morning.
Why do we always leap to the most cynical explanation? Perhaps every cyclist in the capital, or 2/3 of them, have started behaving better.
So I say this as someone who cycles in and out of the office. The reason we don't take that on face value is because we have eyes, Stig, and we can see it every time we go past a traffic light or on a pavement. Do you
tut at your fellow cyclists?
I do, sometimes. Do
you tut at the drivers on the road as well?
I do more than tut, really, occasionally. Yeah. It does
Hand
create
signals.
a degree of rage. Anyway, the Met Police, yes, 4,500 recorded cycling offences in 2023, down to below 1,500 in 2025. The spot fine for things like running through red lights, going on the pavement, is 50 quid. You can get prosecuted. It can go up to 400 quid, which typically is people who react badly to being pulled over. But as you say, that number is falling at the same time as the number of bike journeys in London is going through the roof. Another double-digit percentage hike last year. 1.5 million daily cycling journeys now in London, which is the equivalent of everyone that gets taken on the Northern and Piccadilly line every day.
And this will be true for all cities around the country. You imagine more and more cycling. Yeah. Do we have to accept, though, if you go to Amsterdam or to other places in the Netherlands, for example, they've changed their cities a bit to make them fit cyclists, not drivers, whereas it feels like most British cities were built before cars, then had loads of cars put in them, and now have cars and cycles together, and it doesn't really fit any of those things.
Yeah, in London there's certainly an effort to retrofit the roads to make them more cycling friendly, but what cycling campaigners will call for is, properly demarcated zones where there's a little pavement, for instance, between the cycle lane and the road, rather than just a small bit of paint. It's certainly true that some cyclists go through red lights because they're in a hurry and they've got places to go to and they don't really care about the red lights. It's also true that sometimes it's not safe to wait for a red light. There's one junction in the city that I will confess to going through the red on every time, because if I wait, I find myself in the middle of two squeezing lorries and it doesn't end well for me. So clearly there is some work to be done in cities to make them more bike friendly, because of course all the driving forces, economic as much as anything else, are pushing people into getting on two wheels rather than getting into public transport or cars.
Polly Vernon wrote a really funny piece for the Times complaining about cyclists, and I'm glad you're a cyclist. Kate's a bit of a cyclist as well, so we've got two members of the fraternity and sorority here with us. She moaned about pavement riding, lime bike sort of thuggery, e-bikes generally, lycra loons, sort of men in lycra going too fast around the place. What are fair charges against cyclists in your view?
All of those, I think, are fair charges in different circumstances. The pavement riding is the one that always does slightly annoy me, even as a cyclist, because I don't ever really see the need to do that for any long period of time.
Polly Vernon was writing in her piece about the entitled attitude, and she was saying she really feels like since COVID, something has shifted in that she's taken it upon herself to shout at people who ride on the pavement, because they're often on e-bikes and they're going really quick and you can't hear them. And she said these guys, and it's almost always men, shout back at her as if they are entitled to ride on the pavement.
Which may be that these streets were empty for a period of time and we all got used to doing what we want. I don't know, but I think there's a sense of entitlement more broadly post-COVID, isn't there? And there's a bit more anger in the air generally, so maybe there's something there. One thing I would say in the Met's defence about these fees is what they have said is they have limited capability to do everything. Yeah. They're focusing on illegal e-bikes, which are the sort of ones that are used in phone snatching and various other things. So they're not going to stop everyone that goes through a red light if it's safe.
And that's the problem we hear about, create a new law. There's no point in ever creating new laws, because there's a finite number of police already enforcing a finite number of things they can do all day. Kate's just got in touch to say, this morning in London I reprimanded 2 cyclists, one for cycling on the pavement and one for cycling through a red light. On both occasions, rather than apologise for breaking the law, not to mention putting me at risk of injury, I received a barrage of abuse. How testy has it got on your morning commute?
It's got pretty testy. I think recently it's heating up now as well, so it's only going to get worse. There is definitely, I'm not going to call it a war between cyclists and drivers.
I think it can be a little bit, can't it?
Can it? I don't know, Kate.
I think in London it can be. I've often experienced it as that. But I think it's different if you're actually, this is a weird thing, but if I am, as a woman, riding a bike in normal clothing, drivers tend to give me a much wider berth. If I'm riding a bike in Lycra with a helmet and high vis on, they will come up really close behind you and treat you as if you ought not to be on the road. I don't know what people's experiences are outside of London. I'd be fascinated to know. But I think in London there is definitely this attitude of, you are annoying me on the road and you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's true. I think the other thing, of course, that's changed over the past 2-3 years is that the use of line bikes has shot through the roof. So you do have more occasional cyclists. There is something about a line bike, the speed that it moves at, the sort of heft you feel like you've got underneath you.
Are they e-bikes?
Yes, they are e-bikes.
They weigh 35 kilograms.
Again, you can't uninvent things, but this? We didn't need e-cigarettes. I don't think we don't need e-bikes. At what point do we need to say, do you know what? If you want to get on a bike, use your legs. Use your goddamn legs. And if you don't want to use your legs, then don't get on a bike.
I love an e-bike. What I would say is TfL are quite keen on bringing... So what's weird is that in London, all regulation of e-bikes, which comes back to the parking element, which is another thing that annoys people about cyclists, all of that parking of e-bikes, line bikes, forest bikes is all run by individual boroughs at the moment, 32 boroughs across London. This is clearly a bit bonkers. It's not a system you would design from the start. TfL want to bring that all under one roof this year, which should, in theory, mean that we have proper parking regulations that are enforced across the capital. We shall see.
Licence plates for cyclists?
Anytime you put a barrier in the way of someone getting on a bike, it's going to stop people cycling. There is, in public policy in this area, I think, and I don't say this as a cycling advocate particularly, there's going to have to be some give and take, that if you want more people cycling, which is a green and cheap way to get into the office, you are going to have to accept that sometimes people are going to misuse that.
And that's right. It's amazing. So many people get in touch, because I think it's one of those things that if you're either a cyclist or a driver or a pedestrian, this has happened to you, hasn't it? Something bad has happened to you probably in the last year, and so therefore we have an opinion on the subject.
Cyclists are annoying. I will grant that. As I say,
but
that
so are drivers.
But then, people messaging in here saying, why is it legal to ride a line bike, an electric bike, without a helmet? Helen, though, this one is bizarre. My husband, a lifelong cyclist, was cycling in the cycle lane and a car passenger shouted at him to get on the pavement. I mean, I don't really know what to do with that, Helen.
Yeah, get where you're safe, because they regard the road. That's the problem. The road is fundamentally owned by drivers and has been for years in this country, and they regard cyclists as interlopers. And cyclists say, well, hang on, we're doing the eco and the healthy thing. You get out your gas guzzling thing and get out of the way. And the problem is that's a fundamental opposition. I'm not sure you can really ever meet together.
Which is the parking argument as well, right? When people say there were 12 bikes in my car parking space this morning, how dare they? Well, it's like, well, there was also a car there overnight last time. So, I mean,
that's 12 people.
It's all in the way.
And it really is stuff. That's Andy Silvester, the London editor of The Times.